Okay, welcome back to Oliver's Greenhouse. Now, for those of you that have just watched the slug update, you'll realise that we've already heard, it's pretty apparent that my voice is completely ruined. Unfortunately, I've contracted another horrendous disease. It's probably either SARS or consumption off the kids. In any way, I've got a filthy cold and no voice. So I'm not going to let that stop us. In this video, Harry's going to come along and help. And what we're going to do is we're going to divide and repot my struggling, sad Paphiopedilum, which is just an absolute misery. It was great in the house. It's really weird. Bring it in the greenhouse and it sulks. So we're going to be getting it out, having a look at the roots, splitting it up, trimming off all the cruddy bits, all the old dead leaves. There's a little bit of tip dieback on some of the leaves, so we're going to use a sterilised set of scissors to trim those back and see how many plants we get out of it. I've also been told that underpotting it's a really good idea, so the divisions we're going to be putting into some much smaller pots, so it takes up a lot less room around the greenhouse. And we're going to be talking about some media, because I've got this old bag of typical Westlands orchid compost. Now, because this is a Paphiopedilum and they're terrestrial in their native environment, it's going to be no point sticking them in huge lumps of bark, because you just won't be able to keep them moist enough. So what I'm going to be doing is incorporating some of that with some big bark and some gross stone to keep a bit of air movement in the soil and keep it nice and fresh, and then using that as a potting media. So please bear with me. I know my voice sounds ridiculous at the moment, but hopefully Harry's going to do the majority of the narrating from now on. Okay, so hopefully you can see all right. Now, this thing has been in this pot for a little while and it's a bit of a bear moth. What the strange thing that happened this year is that it began to be really, really sulky in the greenhouse. I'm not sure whether it's just too mild in here. Basically, it produced quite a few flower spikes and they all blasted like almost instantaneously, which is a real shame because it's usually a really good shower. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut those off now because they are knackered. They are, Harry. Look, those used to be flowers, but they never turned into anything. So the whole plant's been in this thing for a while. So what I'm going to do is try and tip it out, unpot it, and have a look at what actually we've got inside this pot. Say again, man. Okay. All right, sunshine. Okay, so I'm pretty scared we're going to end up with a few dead roots in here. Now, I've purposely let it dry out a little bit. It's not bone dry, but I've let it dry out a little bit, just so that it's going to make this whole job a lot easier. There's a real mass of roots in here. There's also some new roots forming. What's that? I know, it leaves falling off, Harry. So hopefully you guys can see that. I've got a phone here with a live feed, so I can actually see pretty much what you guys can see if I zoom you in. So hopefully you're going to be able to see that. So I've got lots of these typical brown, unusual looking roots that you get on Paphiopedilum. They've also started to do a bit of pot swirl as well. They start to go round and round. So this thing's got a seriously big root system on it. But we're going to be cutting it up into divisions. It's a very healthy looking root system. It looks fine. Not many dead roots. What do you think, Harry?
There's some roots in there will have died.
Do you reckon?
Yeah.
What colour are they?
Brown.
They are brown. Are they hairy as well? Yeah. They are, aren't they?
They're like your dreads.
A bit like my dreads.
Yeah.
So it's already split apart there into two plants quite quickly. What I've got to try and do is tease out these roots to separate them. They're coming apart quite easily. Oh my goodness, they're so long. Some of these roots are about 1 metre long. Look at them, Harry. My goodness, what is that root? Oh, right, there we go. Okay, I'm going to zoom you back out again so you can see. So you can see the length of some of these roots if I hold it down to the camera there. I mean, some of these roots are nearly 1 metre long. Some old polystyrene packing chips in there. What I'm going to try and do is basically separate what's good and what's bad. See, that's a dead root. That's a live root. So we've got a big clump of old rhizome attached to this section here, which is just going to take off. And using the scissors, just getting them really tidy up, get rid of some of this old mess. The trouble is it always goes all over the floor in the greenhouse. Not having to pick up for ages, loads of old dead leaves. And this plant I've had for a long time. Strangely enough, last year when it flowered, we were still in my old house, and it came up with 6 flower spikes. And then this little man over here, who was a little bit younger at the time, picked the flower buds off. Do you remember doing that in the old house when this plant was growing on near the windowsill? Or are you too young to remember? Too young to remember, conveniently. Daddy was absolutely gutted.
Why?
Well, because Daddy waited a long time for it to produce some new flowers, you see.
I'm marking them off for you, weren't you?
Yes, you were picking them off for me.
But they're all dead, weren't they?
No, they're all alive.
They're all alive.
Yes, they were.
But you wanted some more to alive.
Oh, indeed.
There is a lot.
So I reckon there's another 2 plants here which can be brought out. What I'm going to do is just cut the rhizome. There we go. One plant there. This has got one large tap root and it's producing lots of new roots at the moment. So there's even new roots coming out amongst the fans here. So we'll keep that nice and close to the soil and the new potting media, and that should be fine. So we've got so far 1 big plant, 1 small plant with a new growth and lots of roots on it. Let's pull that one off. And let's have a look at this next piece, Harry. I reckon we'll probably get another couple of plants out of this. Do you want to help Daddy cut some of these dead leaves off, Harry? Come on then. If you move your stool, yeah, I'll move your stool over. Right, if you kneel up on the stool, Harry, you'll be able to, or you can use scissors. You remember how to use scissors. Cut some of these dead leaves off here. Just the dead leaves. Cut them in close to there. That's it. Snip. Very good. This one in here. For Daddy to do it, maybe. Is it tricky?
No, it's not.
It's not tricky. Tell you what, kneel up. Might be easier. Kneel up on the stool. Right. Better?
Yeah.
Put Lucky Ladybird down. There, you can watch. There we go. Right, no, we want to cut them in nice and close. See, it's all scraggy in here, all these little bits. So you want to cut these bits off. That's it, snip. Good boy. And in here, this is an old dead root. Can you get him? Watch out for Daddy's fingers. Snip. Good boy.
No, there's some over there, dude.
Now these are okay, these are alive. See, they're like furry. See, those are root hairs, and it's those bits which are super important for absorbing moisture. And these ones are a bit dead, actually, to be honest.
There's a dead one over here.
Yep, can you cut it off? Watch your fingers. Use the scissors this way around, look, like that. So you can put, better?
Yeah.
Okay. There's another dead leaf in here. Let's pick this lot up and turn it over. So I just think it's just a bit too humid, believe it or not. It sounds nuts, but cut down here, Harry, by my finger. I think it's too humid, possibly too cold for this guy in the greenhouse, which is why it's decided to sulk, and it's obviously having some mould problems, which is a shame really, because it puts on a really good show a lot of the time. So I was gutted this year when all these leaves blasted. What we'll do in a minute, Harry, we'll pick it up with your help and we'll have a look and see where a good idea would be to put it apart and turn it into lots of little plants.
I've got some.
Got some more there, have you? Thanks, Harry. Did you just throw it on the sun shears? Yeah. Right. Let's have a look at what this looks like. We might be able to get 3 out of this maybe. There's certainly one big one there. There's this clump here which is probably going to divide.
That is dirty.
Is it? Is that going to divide? Okay, so I reckon we can cut it. I reckon we can cut it in here somewhere. I reckon we can cut it in here along this rhizome here. There we go. Right. What we've got to do is very carefully pull the roots apart so we've got separate plants.
Pull the roots. The dead roots.
Some are dead, some are alive. So that's going to be one plant there with a couple of new growths on it and some new roots. And like I said, I may have said at the beginning of the video, I've been advised to underpot these plants. Apparently they do better underpotted, so that's what we're going to do. This really looks like it wants to be 2 small plants as well. What's up, Harry? You've got to be a little careful because these brown hairy roots are super snappy. They snap very easily. So right, what I'm going to do now is, because obviously they're exposed to the light, I'm just going to grab my mister. Harry, do you want to jump down and give the roots on these plants a misting, please, for me? Pop that up. Go and spray their roots down there on the pot, sweetheart. Cheers. Yes, please. Yeah, because otherwise they'll dry out, which they don't like. Just pick up some of the rubbish off the floor here. So the only trouble with doing this is it spreads bits all over the place. It's less than enjoyable. Now none of this will go to waste. This is going to go over the base of my cannas, which I planted out earlier this week, to decompose or to provide a form of mulch. So that's where they'll go, like that. Did you get them wet, Harry? Do we need to put some more water? Right, let's stop filming. Ready? Okay, so as far as media is concerned, I've got this generic thing of orchid compost which has been knocking around in one of my little storage sheds in the garden for a while. So we're going to use that up because it's almost got like a peaty consistency to it. It seems like it's really, it seems like almost like it's got peat in it. It's not quite bark, it's not quite compost, it's sort of like in between. It's most peculiar stuff. So that's what I'm going to be using I don't use it for most of my orchids because it's so peaty and sort of claggy. I'd be concerned because obviously it's quite humid in the greenhouse most of the time here. I would be seriously concerned that it would stay too moist and go sour really quickly. So with that in mind, I'm going to bulk it out with some large orchid bark just to provide some better aeration, like this, like that. So bulk it out with a bit of that, and then what we're also going to do, Harry, is we're going to put some perlite in it as well. You've got to be careful with this stuff. This is the stuff with the dust you mustn't breathe in. I've got a big bag of perlite to keep in the greenhouse here for the carnivorous plants. That's what I'm going to do, is I'm just going to mix in a couple of handfuls of this. There we go. Helicopter or aeroplane, Harry, what do you reckon? I reckon that was a helicopter going over. What do you reckon? Huh? What's up? Yeah, of course you can breathe. You're breathing right now, aren't you? Well, you've got to be careful when it's dry, Harry. So when it's still in its granular form, you've got to be careful because it produces like a clear dust. And that, if it goes in your lungs, can give you a bad cough. So you've got to be a little bit careful.
Mine was not bad.
I know, Daddy's got a rubbish cough at the moment. Daddy sounds like an imbecile.
Why sound like that so bad?
Right, so here's the first culprit. What we're going to do is actually have a look at how viable some of this root system is, because some of it is not looking too hot. In fact, I go as far as saying that some of it, like that bit, is completely dead as a doornail. So is that. And that is starting to be alive again, so that's good. Just sort of trimming off any of the dead roots as we go. There's no point putting them in the new mix. They'll just get they'll just go manky quite quickly anyway. So I find a lot of the times though when I'm cutting them back, they're not entirely dead. Like the tip might have died off, but the vast majority of it is still viable. And whilst we've got this plant at this point, it's a great opportunity to trim off anything that is either looking a bit manky or is dead anyway. So I'll just trim these off. I've just noticed actually in this pot here that, Harry, that is a king sundew root. We should snip that up and we'll put it in with the other root cuttings. What do you reckon?
Oh, yes.
Would that be good? Yeah, Daddy's just noticed that. So I think that'd be a good idea. What's that, mate? Let's drop that there a minute. I'm just going to nip over here. What were you doing with it? Oh, don't wash it. It doesn't need washing, sunshine. What we're going to do is we're going to cut it up and we're going to put it in here. See those bits in there? Those are the other cuttings we took from the king sundew the other day. Yeah, what? Hold your hand out. Hold your hand out. There we go. One more. What we'll do is we'll put those and push them down against the compost like this.
I hear a cockerel.
Can you hear a cockerel? There we go. And we'll pop those in there and then we might have a few more, maybe, if we're lucky. Don't know whether or not they're going to grow yet, do we, Harry, man? Yeah, go on.
It's about, we need a lot more roots to go down.
Do you reckon?
Yeah.
Right. So I'm going to try and use these square pots because I find them a lot easier to work with. Hold that, Harry, man. Just a little dram of that in the bottom. Watch out, Harry, you don't want to snap those off because that's how the plant absorbs water and nutrients from the soil. So if we snap them off, then the plant can't get the food or the water it needs. And that'd be sad, wouldn't it? Wouldn't that be sad? Yes. Okay.
But if you're from steal some roots, Daddy, you can still do it, can't you?
That's right, that's why it's important to maintain those roots.
Yeah, and give some more roots to some more orchids.
Now I always find when you're backfilling, especially with something that's granular like this, tapping the pot really helps the media settle around the plant and fill in all those little gaps. Otherwise what will happen is, and I've done this in the past, potted plants up, go on, put some in there, Harry, man. Potted plants up in the past, thinking I've done a really good job, gone to water it and then realised I've actually left cavities in the soil. So I've watered it and all of a sudden like a giant sinkhole's appeared in the media where I just have forgotten or haven't filled it up appropriately. So I found by tapping the side of the pot it really helps everything settle down in there a lot happier. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to top dress these pots with sphagnum moss as well. So I really find that encourages new root growth. So me and Harry are going to go ahead and get on with this and then we'll have a look at how many plants we've got at the end of it. Okay, so that's all finished now. We finished dividing up the big plant into its component sections. We've simply snipped the rhizome between the growth fans, leaving 2 to 3 groves in each section, and also tried to retain where possible viable roots. Now some of the sections haven't got not a large number of well-established roots, but lots of new roots are emerging from the base of the fan, so the base of the new growth. So what we've done is put a top dressing of about 1 inch to 1.5 inches of damp sphagnum moss on top, and that's going to really encourage the proliferation of those roots. So what I'll probably do is sell most of these. I'll keep this one here, I'm going to keep as the mother plant. It's the best division, it's the largest, so I'll keep that as the mother plant, and then the others I'll sell when they've got over their self-imposed sulk. So thank you for watching. I really hope you've enjoyed this video, spending a bit of time with me and Harry in the greenhouse. Harry's been a great help as usual. He's done all the top dressing with the sphagnum moss. So don't forget to give us a like, thumbs up down below, and if you feel like it and you want to get regular updates about the content I make, please subscribe. Thanks for watching.